Gonzalo, it's really, really nice to see you, and I'm so excited to get to talk to you. This is really special for me. So
It's a
thank
pleasure,
you.
man. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Thanks a lot.
You know, always when I think of you, there's so many things that I admire. But I want to talk first with you about sound and touch.
Mhm.
That's something that you know, you have a incredible touch on the instrument, and you get a sound of the instrument that is so unique and so special and so big and so layered. I'm interested in what you did to get closer to what your idea of sound is in your head, how you worked on it.
Well, this is probably one of the most difficult questions to answer because I believe that there's nothing related to a theoretic um, or a rule. I mean, that we can say, okay, the reason why I'm sounding this way is because I played this way.
Hmm.
Technically speaking, well, I went to the classical school in Cuba, and as you must know, the classical school they invest a lot of time trying to make the students uh, know how to uh, put the hands in the keyboard, the different kind of attack or the relationship with with the action, of how to produce some kind of different action. I mean, sound on the piano that
Hmm.
we know as legato, portato, staccato, things like that. The thing is that everybody learned more or less the same. We have the same people behind that guide us and say, you should do that. When it's staccato, it's like that. When it's legato, it's like this. But at the end, everybody sound different, even
Hmm.
playing the same legato, the same staccato, the same portato. So I believe there's something spiritual.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, is something that comes from inside. It's a need. I had the need. I had that. I need to sound in some way,
Hmm.
and I try to transmit from my inside what I want to the instrument. But we were talking about that with some friends a few days ago. Some of them musicians, and one of them said, "I can understand that a flute player, or a trumpet player, a trombone player, a saxophone player, even a guitar player can manipulate the sound in a way that we can recognize that he is manipulating the sound. I don't know, in the way you uh, produce the emission of the sound with your lips,
Hmm.
and um, and also the guitar when you put your fingers in the over the strings, you can manipulate the strings. I don't know. They said, what about the piano? Because it's totally a different experience. How um, that experience that you see a different pianist playing in the same piano, all of them sound different.
Yeah.
And I always have that problem that I don't know how to really convince the people about with my explanation how to do it. Um, at the end, I think everybody sounds in the way they are, the way they feel, and the way they imagine the sound,
Hmm.
the way they think about the sound. um, because I believe that we had to think before we play,
Hmm.
and this is an action that uh, uh, that happened in a very quick uh, fraction of seconds. The way we think and we play and we transmit the what we want is very quick, very fast. But definitely we had to think about what we want to say and how we want to deliver that speech. Um, but I think it's very personal. It's an individual uh, feeling, vision. Um, I don't know. I don't know. That's probably one of the always the most difficult question to
Yeah, I know.
clarify.
Yeah. Who, in terms of role models or people with sounds that you like, who are the people that you think about and that you look up to?
Well, look, there's two different experience. Listening to a player through uh, uh, a machine like a CD player or a computer, and then it's a different experience when you see them playing personally, or at least visually, you can see it. Um, and this is always that always impressed me more than just listening to somebody else. For example, I saw different videos, many videos from Horowitz playing the piano.
Yeah.
And he didn't look like he's doing anything extraordinary. Even when you see his hand playing, no matter what, Rachmaninoff or Beethoven or any of the impressionist composer, sometimes I had it's like he's going to make, definitely he's about to do a mistake at some moment, because I don't know how to say that. But then he delivered the most incredible layers of sounds, and he can express amazingly. I don't know, those kind of feelings that are, again, when you relate to him with the instrument, you see him playing. He's not the kind of person that his actions, his movement will alert you or will tell you in advance what he's going to do, what he's going to deliver musically. So I have a lot of classical players as reference because, as I said before, this is what I'm coming from, a classical school, but I also am coming from a family that I saw many piano players. My father, one of my brother was a piano player too. And they were definitely the first music reference that I had in my life. When I was 4 or 5 years, I used to see a lot of jam and rehearsal at home, and I saw them playing, and I tried later on to emulate the way they play music, especially Cuban music, which is it require of a different touch to play the popular Cuban popular music, dancing music.
Yeah, can you explain that?
Well, usually those bands, Cuban bands, they play really loud, and normally we have a section of trumpets, trombones, and a lot of percussion, heavy percussion, congas, timbales. Actually, they added drum set to cowbells, everything. 4 or 5 voices, people singing around. It could be also, they could have strings playing in the same band. So you have to find a way to reach that kind of volume, that not competing with the rest of the band, but to be in there as part of the band, that the instrument has some real space that the people can feel and can hear it. And I saw that at home without any amplification. There was no microphones or anything else. They're just natural. And we played that we call tumbaos. A tumbao is, let's say, the piano was not always part of the Cuban bands at the end of the 19th century. It was not usual to see a piano as an instrument as part of the Cuban bands. I'm talking about the dancing, the Cuban band that made music to people to dance.
Mm-hmm.
They used to have guitars and different kind of guitars. Then I think later on in the 20th century, beginning of the 20th century, they decided to insert the piano as part of those bands. And the piano tried to emulate the codes and the lines that the guitar player used to play before.
Mm-hmm.
And so they try to do those lines where you hear octave, and then you hear some single notes in the middle, and then again the octave.
Yeah.
And we do like it, bam, pa bam, bim bam, tom, bata bim, bata bim bim bam, potom. Those notes that I accent, bam, bim, bim, bam, bam, not the middle ones. Those louder, they played it with octave, and then the rest is in the middle. They are single notes, and you do that with both hands. That's the difference with the merengue and the way they play tumbals in Dominican Republic. In Dominican Republic, they play kind of the chords in the left hand, and then that typical lines that I already said in the right side, in the right hand. In the Cuban music, they play with both hands the same thing. Sometimes you can hear some different voices, but the rhythm design is the same for both hands. So, and I grew up listening to these kind of things, and I tried to do that.
Thank you for checking out the podcast. If you enjoy these conversations, please join me on patreon.com/PabloHeld for more educational videos on various musical topics, early access to episodes, lead sheets, online hangouts, listening sessions, music recommendations, Bandcamp discount, and more behind-the-scenes stuff from the podcast. The generous support of my Patreons helps me to pay for the running costs of the podcast, and it also helps me to keep it going into the future. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the episode. In what way was that music passed down to you? Like through listening, or
No.
also through reading,
Live.
or just
live and by ears, because
yeah.
at that moment I couldn't read music yet. I went to the school when I was 8 or 9 years old. That's when I started at the conservatory.
Right.
But I played with my father's band before when I was 5 years old, and I follow them. I just follow what I heard, and I try to be part of that. And sometimes my father said, "You had to do that," and they used to sing that to me.
Mm-hmm.
But also we play some music that were really popular on the radio, on TV. So we already knew the music, and everybody I don't think nobody would need a music chart to do that, to play that. So we have Cuban traditions, roots first, and then we have classical school. And at some point, while I was getting the classical training, I discovered some jazz records at home.
Which ones?
Very old. I mean, Jimmy Dorsey, Errol Garner.
Yeah, which one?
I can't remember right now. My father used to have that very old record in very bad shape because he had that somewhere at home. And I remember also to have some of the Dizzy Gillespie record, Grooving Heart, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And who else? Stan Kenton, big Stan Kenton. I think it was Charlie Parker too. I remember to see one of them. But at the same time, there was a radio station, the only one in Cuba, that had that jazz program every night from just half hour, from 11 p.m. to 11:30. from Monday to Friday. And I remember to look to hear that music, that the music they broadcast every night, right there close to the radio. And then I discovered a lot of stuff there. Not because, I mean, that was difficult in Cuba in the 60s and the 70s to find updated music from America.
Mm.
You know, political reasons,
Of course, yeah.
and all the situation between Cuba and United States. And it was also even, we were not allowed in the 60s to listen jazz music in Cuba.
Mm.
And of course, if they catch you with some albums with American music at home, or or listen to music with some friends, in any place, you can be in trouble. But at the end of the 70s, everything changed a little bit. They decided to do a festival, jazz festival in Havana. I believe that they couldn't control or stop the long tradition, the long relationship that Cuban musicians and audience in Cuba had with jazz music for decades. And also, I believe they discovered that there was another option, smart decision to bring foreign people to the country and giving it a better face, a better look to the revolution. And so there was a lot of political meaning behind that. But there were some benefits. We were able to see live concerts that people like Dizzy Gillespie came to Cuba. Carmen Maret was singing in Cuba with Dizzy.
Did you see Weather Report when they came over?
And I saw Weather Report. That was before. That was in the 77 or 76.
Yeah. In Havana, right?
In Havana. I went to this theater where they played, which is a huge play. It has about 3,000 seats. And I was, I think, in the last one up there. And I was a little kid. At that, I'm sure not only for me, for the people that were able to see those shows in Havana at that time, it changed totally life of all of us. The fact to see Weather Report, to see Tony Williams playing with Jaco,
and
John McLaughlin.
Yes.
But also that there was also all-star salsa big band with Ruben Blades and many people. And that was a kind of encounter between American musicians and the most prestigious Cuban bands at that time. Irakere was there with Chucho Valdez, among others. So, and not only jazz, but they brought also some, Billy Yours was there too, Rita Coolidge. But yeah, that was definitely one of the most important events in Cuba at that time. You only had to think about that from the 59 to the 70s, something, end of the 70s, we were not able to see any live shows coming from not America, but any capitalist country. So the reason why I went to, I had the wish to improvise and with the jazz vocabulary and all the stuff, because I already improvised, but mostly in the Cuban style, in the Cuban music stuff. It was because I saw some of my colleagues at the school. I discovered some of them once playing and jamming in one of the room. And they do that in secrets because at the school you were not allowed to play popular music. That was a classical school, and nobody was allowed to play non-classical European music. But when I heard those guys playing what they were playing there, I was already in love with that, and I want to do that, and I want to reproduce that I heard. And then I remember that to hear my father sometime talking about some of those names that I mentioned before. And that day I came back to home and I said, where are those records that you mentioned? He said, well, you can find it there in this place. And then I started looking for information, the information we could get at that time in Cuba. I had the advantage to travel outside of Cuba when I was really young. I was 17 years old when I traveled for the first time with a very popular singer, Cuban singer. And we went to South America, to Colombia. And coming back to Cuba, we stopped in Panama for 2 days. And then I saw some records, some cassettes, not even LPs, cassettes. And I brought some of them back to Cuba. I think it was Chick Corea with Spanish Heart, and I think also Herbie Hancock. I don't remember which one, but it was Herbie Hancock record. So I was able by myself to buy some music because I was able to travel outside of the country. And I also got some friends in Europe, and they know the situation of the Cuban people, and they used to give us a lot of recordings. So that was the way that I, little by little, I start updating my information of what was happening here with jazz music. And then the rest is how to emulate that, how we can play this way. After that, I went to what we call in Cuba the Superior Institute of Music, and I did composition there. I did a degree in composition. That was also a classical institution.
So you had to write like sonatas and stuff like that? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So, but I haven't said that the way I get into the music was through the drums, the percussion, not the piano. The piano came a little bit after. Drum was the first instrument.
Same with me, actually. It's the same. Yeah.
And I was about to be 6 years old, 5, 6 years. My parents asked me, what you want to for your birthday? I said a drum set. And again, I think it was a nightmare for them because I was difficult to find the drums. But a friend of the family said, oh, I know a guy somewhere that he builds drums. Well, we went there, and yeah, that was true. He built the drums the very rustic way, but he did it. And he built my first drums. So the day of my birthday, I tried to play with my father and my brothers, and I did everything by ears. And when my mother decided to bring me to the school to see if I had if I passed the test to be part of the conservatory, my dream was to see myself learning. Be part of the percussion department. And it didn't happen in the way that I thought. So I was 8 years old. And they said that the age to be part of the percussion department was at 10 years old because because of physical
Mm-hmm.
conditions. So they've offered me piano or violin. In my house, there was always a piano. My the middle one of my brother was a piano player. He was a classical piano player too, and I saw him hours and hours practicing. My father too, but I never had the most any intention to be close up to the piano. And actually, when I saw my brother playing the piano and my father reading the piano chart, it looked to me something extremely difficult. So,
Yeah, I know.
and I was afraid of that. I said, no, no, no,
Yeah.
no. I had nothing to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So when the situation at school that I had that no percussion possible until the 10 years old, and they offered me piano and percussion, it was my mother, the one that convinced me to choose the piano.
Like how? What was her?
Well, she said, look, um, piano is probably the most complete instrument. And it doesn't matter if in the future you decide to become a piano player or not. If you get some piano lessons or you can have some knowledge about how to work with the piano, uh, you will be very benefit of that because in the future you will have that tool to
Yeah.
compose, to understand harmony, to this and this and this and this. And now I was not totally convinced of that, but I did it because her. We had always a very deep and beautiful relationship. And I want her to be happy. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, I will do it. I will do it because you are
That's sweet.
asking me to do it. And that was the beginning of my relationship with the piano. The first year was a little bit difficult to me. Uh, but then they switched me to a different teacher. There was a woman, um, Teresa Valiente. And
What was she like?
um, she was a brunette woman, young woman, that she was already coming back from Russia. I mean, she was studying in Russia. No, I don't think she was studying in Russia. Many of the people at the conservatories that became teachers and professors at that time, all of them were training in the Union Soviets.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think she was part of that group. Her name was Teresita Valiente. She was an amazing piano player,
Mm-hmm.
an amazing. But more than that, she has that talent to transmit knowledge, to train people, to guide people, especially little kids.
Mm-hmm.
That was something, it was a talent on her.
Yeah. Not many people have that.
Exactly,
It's
exactly.
rare.
And I was in love with her already, and she tapped me into the instrument, and and I already got that wish to show my family, my mother, even to her, to my teacher, that I could do what she required from me. Um, so that was the beginning. That was the beginning. Actually, 2 years after, uh, the the people that uh, I mean, how to say, the president of the conservatory, or
Mm-hmm.
the director, they called me back and said, okay, you are already in the age to be part of the percussion department, so it's your decision. Yeah, this is your option. And I was in tremendous trouble because I said, well, I didn't know what to say and what to do. So at the end, they gave me the possibility to have both things. So I went to the percussion department, but I never left the, the piano. So I tried to do both at the same time. Um, and I actually played with some bands from the school, and I put together my first band when I still was at the school, and I wasn't playing the piano, I was playing the drums. But there was a lot of contradictions. 3 or 4 years later, technically contradiction about how to play the piano, how to use the hands, the arms, and everything, and then the drums. And I had to take a decision about it.
It was hard
So
to get both things in line or to
yeah,
find a common ground.
yeah, or
Mhm.
at least if you want to have top control or technical control of both instruments, you would see some problems with that. Um, um, I also was able to play with a lot of professional musicians even when I was a student, because my house was a place where mm, many of the the greatest musicians coming from popular music, very people well known in Cuba. Even many of them uh, changed the way to play the Cuban music.
Hmm.
Percussionists, composers, singers, bass players, piano players too. They used to come by just to say hi to my family, my father, my mom, or sometimes they stay there for a while talking about this and that. So I didn't know the importance to be part of that when I was a kid.
Yeah, you just assume it's normal when it's your
But
family. It's just the people
exactly,
that you know. Yeah, of course.
exactly. But as soon as I get some more conscious of the environment around myself, and then I realized that I was very lucky. I'm very blessed to be able to see everything I saw and everything I heard, and um, and also to be glad for many of them because they used to tell me, you should not do that, and you should play this way, and you have to do that, and this and this and this.
Do you remember a specific advice?
I remember for the most precious thing that I received, it was from a guy. His name is Pedro. Well, he passed away many years ago. Pedro Hernandez. He was a violin player, but he was a composer too, and he was also a person with a lot of talent to form, to educate, um, and he was a very close to my family. He used to play danzón. Danzón is one of the most famous uh, style of a Cuban style of a music style from the beginning of the 20th century. Um, it's a combination of European music with the Cuban percussion. You can hear all the harmonies and melodies clearly that can be, you can hear that in Bach or in Beethoven or in Mozart. But then behind that, the rhythm section is a totally Cuban. Um, and that was in the 20s and the 30s was one of the most popular uh, style of Cuban music in Cuba. The people used to dance with that in between the 30s and the 40s, or even the 20s and the 40s. And everybody was in love with this kind of music. This is what they used to hear that on the radio. This is what they used to go out uh, to to the places to dance. That's the music that they used to enjoy.
Hmm.
Danzón. And this guy, he composed beautiful danzons, many of 50 or 60 danzons, many of them very well known in Cuba. And he said once, I will teach you to play danzón And at the same time, I was teaching to play uh, by first, how you say, when you see for the first time the charts,
Side reading?
the side reading. And I remembered he arrived home one of those afternoons, and during the weekend, he said, okay, he put in the piano one of his composition. He took the violin out, and he said, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I supposed to follow him and play what it was in the paper. And I was a struggle. I said, well, he said, no. Look, the first thing that we have to understand is that the music is a language, it's an idiom. And you have to read that in the same way you take the newspaper in the morning and you read it. You don't know what is coming.
Right.
In the newspaper. But you take it, you open the newspaper and you read. Everything is in there. And also you made an interpretation of what you read. So this is exactly what you should do with the music. And when you read something else, any music for the first time, you have to try to follow the notes. Everything is in there. But at the same time, you have to give that an intention.
Yeah.
And of course, you need to exercise that. But that should be the way. And I learned with him to do that. So he used to come home to the house 2 or 3 times a week, and we used to do that exercise. It helped me a lot because when I was 15 or 16 years old, I used to play a lot in different cabarets and clubs in Havana. And that's the way they work there. They change every night. They have a repertoire, but for some reason, normally in a week, you can see 2, 3, or 4. They change a little bit the repertoire for 2 or 3 songs each 2 nights. And there's no time to rehearse. So when I was doing this kind of job, I was already prepared because that relationship with this mentor that I have.
That's great.
Also, the feeling. They talk a lot of the feeling. You know, even this, they used to say, even if the tempo is a fast tempo, so you have to find a way to breathe. It doesn't matter how fast is the tempo of the music you play. You need to breathe, and you have to accommodate yourself. You cannot play like somebody that is in the position to get up from the seat. You have to sit down.
Sit in the beat.
And exactly.
Yeah.
And also technical things. There's a guy still alive. Everybody knows him as Changuito. He's a percussionist, and he was the drummer of one of the most iconic Cuban orchestra. Still, this orchestra is still active. They playing around. Los Bam Bam. And this band came up in the 70s, and they made a mix in between kind of a rock and roll with some of the Cuban traditions, a rhythm, and that was an amazing experiment. So that guy, he also changed totally the way to play the percussion as part of the Cuban band. He changed the setup. I remember that he used to play the drum set, but without cymbals. The only cymbals he had was the hi-hat, and not crash or or right or whatever. So he had the toms, the snare, the bass drum, but at the same time he got some of the Afro-Cuban elements like cowbells and many other stuff. So he changed the sonority, the sound of how to set up a drum set to play it in the Cuban band. But not only the sound, but also the chords, the rhythm, designs. He was an amazing, very creative guy. He used to pass by the house sometimes, and I remember that the first pair of sticks that I had, he was the one that brought it from Japan. They flew to Japan to play there, and when he came back, he said, "This is for you, but I want you to practice at least 4 hours each day. So in 1 month, when I'm coming back, that stick has to be destroyed. You cannot have that stick intact." The good thing about that generation is that they have a high conscious of discipline, and they believe in, and of course, in the talent of the people, but they believe in how much the people work to get up there. They were totally clear about it. They said, no, this is not a party.
Yeah.
This is what they try to pass to young people. There's nothing you can get without investing time to practicing and to know yourself, and also to develop yourself as a player, listening music, reading book, practicing at home, trying to have a conversation with different musicians, interacting, and this is what I get since I was a little kid. Also by the members of my families, they had the same school. I remember that my mom was the one always behind me, making sure that I spend the right time, the right time practicing with all the notes that I got from the school, in the book, in the notebook. And that this is something that if you get that when you are a kid, you never forget that. Actually, there's no way to live without that conception, without that idea of how it should be, the way to be, how you should be related with the music. Now, sometimes I feel tired, really tired, because traveling around, doing too many things at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I know that I had to rest a little bit, and I need it. But those days when I need to rest and I decide to rest, I'm still thinking about and saying myself I should be doing that thing or something else, because I have the feeling that I'm doing nothing, that I'm wasting the time.
Yeah.
Which is horrible. It's horrible because you are never in peace.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in that, talking about that.
Unless you play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But in the same way, we had to understand the importance to have a serious and professional attitude and relationship with what we do. It's also important to set up the moment to charge batteries, and to rest. It's important physically, it's important mentally. Mm-hmm. emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah.
So
So over the course of all the time you've spent on the piano throughout the years, like how much did it change? Like how much did you spend time at the piano when you were starting out, when you were, growing up, and how is it now for you? Can you give us a little insight into that?
well, I believe that I spend more time with the piano and the music genre now than 40 years ago.
Interesting.
When we're young, we're relieved that we're going to be young always. Um, and we are able to see how strong we are and how the amount of energy we have and how fast can be the process to assimilate something else, any
Yeah.
information, and to work with that. And things change through the years. And the most important thing is to know that, to be aware how much you change through the years. You have to be aware of that and accepting that. You have to accept that. As much you know about yourself in any aspect, positive or negative, and then you are able to go on steps that you can find solutions and benefits. Um, it's not about to believe that what you have done already is enough, and is enough uh, to take the decision to be uh, off of the attitude of curiosity, to be curious, to be
Yeah.
uh, hungry, looking for. Um, no, I mean, we can be happy, we can be grateful, we can be, feel in peace with what we have done already. But this is already part of the past. It's part
Hmm.
of was yesterday. And we had to know to find what to do today. And everything is different. Every day is different for me. Every day, not every week or every month, or every year. Every day is different. I can spend uh, hours and hours working with the piano uh, in different projects because I have been involved with classical music, playing classical, playing with trio, solo, duet with singers, and next stage in the morning. To me, the most important is to reset again
Mm.
my mind, looking for those aspects sincerely. I mean, those aspects where I'm fragile, where I have problems, where I know I have problems, where I know I have still things to put together. Uh, Sometimes we made the mistake that to repeat doing hours and hours what we already know and what we already are in control of.
Hmm.
And this is not the best way to practice. Uh, we had to program and to set up a way to work during the day. But we need to be sincere with yourself.
Being honest, yeah.
You're being honest with yourself. It's not to be in front of the mirror and telling yourself how beautiful you are. No, it's not about that. Um, and that's the most difficult thing, I believe,
Hmm.
um, because we want to enjoy what we do, and obviously we are to enjoy what you already know how to do it. Is a easy step. It's a very easy way you know, to be comfortable. The problem is to wake up in the morning and say, okay, I need to work on this, which is where I had to find a way to grow up. Um, every day we don't have the same. We are not in the same mood. We are not mentally at the same level. The spiritual, we are not also in the same level. So the problem is not only to be able and sit down on the piano and play, but to set up your entire body and mind to take advantage of the time you will be there working with, and to be focused on what you're doing.
How do you stay focused?
That's a good question, and sometimes we believe that we need a space, conditioned space where we are with the right people in the right place, with the right tools, and the right things around. That help, but it's not definitely the only things to be focused. I have, they are not kids anymore, but when they were kids, I had two boys and a girl. And I was not totally in condition to have a silent play to work. So my solution with them was not to tell them to make silence, but to be part of what I was doing. So I called them and said, okay, look what I do, or look at least what I'm trying to do. And you maybe can help me to do that. So we can establish that relationship that I teach you, or I pass you what I'm doing here. I explain you what I'm doing here. And then I will ask you to help me to work with that.
Wow, that's great.
You know, and then I didn't waste time. I was not wasting time to trying to make the people, to said, oh, you cannot be here. You had to make silence.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they understand that to be silent was the best way to do that. Not because they were involved also.
Yeah, they were part of it.
They were part of that, and they understood what you were doing. So when you have to explain somebody else around you what you do, or at least you talk about what you do, you need to convince people about it. There's not much space in your head to be thinking about something different, because you have to find a way not only to think about what you're doing, but to convince the people about what you're doing, and to make them be in love with your work, your job. But at the same time, I try to combine that with exercise. I used to go out and live in a what we call a gate community. So you don't get traffic car here inside of this area. And I used to run a lot. Now less. Now I do more bike than running. But I used to run a lot. And I found out that when I get a struggle, after 2, 3, 4 hours working, especially in composition, and I couldn't get at some point with something else that harmonically or whatever, the moment of the composition that I didn't know how to get out of that or how to continue that. I used to stop and go out and run. And then ideas used to came. I explained that to my principal doctor. He said to me, well, there could be a reason, a very powerful reason. When you are running, you are stimulating your blood circulation. and that blood circulation coming easily to your breath with more fluid in your brain, to your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And that probably, because that stimulation, then you are able to put together more ideas or to have more capacity to analyze or to observe what you're doing, and then you can find more easy solutions. I mean, he gave me an explanation about that. The point is that I did that for years and years and years. That helped me a lot.
Mm.
And I did it also because I'd always been in trouble with my bones and problem with my low back and the neck.
Mm-hmm.
And I also need to be active physically to avoid any, uh, or at least to have more problems that I had already. I did it for the first time when I was 12 years old because I was asthmatic. I had asthma. And after many different uh, uh, shot, vaccine stuff that they gave it to me, the only thing that worked was going close to the sea and run around the sea.
Yeah.
It was easy in Cuba because I used to live in about 2 blocks from the sea. So, and that really helped me a lot. So I had that already, that passion to run and to make exercising. I was a teenager. And I still do it. I'm still do it. See, I mean, my plan in the day is to be awake in the morning, about 8 in the morning, or sometime a little bit before. And Sunday I start with working with the piano because I have some projects, a specific project, and I work directly with the music, this project, in the morning. And then after lunch, I work in the afternoon, composition, whatever I'm doing, but in terms of creation. 6 o'clock, 6:30, depending on the moment of the year. If the sun is not too strong, then I go out and I run or I take bike and I do some exercise. And normally in the evening, I come back to work a little bit, mostly on composition. This is more or less my routine.
Sounds like a great day.
Yeah.
What happens if you have only limited time? Like, what happens if you have kind of what I don't know, business meetings or appointments or whatever, and your limited time for making music or dealing with music is like 90 minutes.
Well, that happened when I'm on tour.
Yeah.
You don't have too much time to. But if I have a day off, I try in advance, even before I start the tour, when I see the day off I have and where are those day off, each country with city. I try to organize a place where they have a piano, something like that, and then I go there, and I at least I spend the amount of time they can provide me. 1 hour,
Yeah.
1 hour, 2 hours, 2 hours, three is okay. But this is what I do. And sometimes, you know, I have seen myself with 3 days off in the middle of the tour. Maybe not the 3 days, but 2 of those 3 days, I try to find a place where I can get a piano.
Yeah.
And then I spend there 2 hours. Sometimes they say, oh, this is only 2 hours. Okay, that's enough. You have to then to look to see how in 2 hours you get what you need or what you want, which is also a very good challenge because when you're at home, you know that you have the whole day to program yourself. But when you have 2 hours and then you have to change totally
Mm-hmm.
the the process, how to assimilate, how to get out of those 2 hours what you need. I remember that that was December or November of the last year. I was on the middle of the tour. I was trying to learn. I don't know which piece was that. It was Bartok, the piece of for two pianos and percussion and symphony orchestra, Bela Bartok. And I didn't have enough time when I was at home to really practice and learn of the piece. I already played the piece 6 or 7 years ago, but this is a piece that very complex and very difficult to play many aspects. I mean, technically, rhythmically, every aspect. And so I brought my book with me, and of course, I had some day off. But even the day of the concerts, I used to go early to the venue and to play in the venue with the piano. Sometimes they have piano in the dressing room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and I use it, and that was the way that I found out to put the music together. So yeah, some people believe that, or I guess that many people believe that we had a lot of time to go around out of the city when we go on tour and to see all the places where we play. Things that I love to do too.
Mm-hmm.
I love to walk around, but at the same time, it's impossible to me to ignore or to get out of my complete routine what really support me, what really take me in a good shape to do music. It doesn't matter if we are on tour or the jet lag, which is sometimes to me is very difficult, especially when you go to Japan, China, or those low places. Yeah, I try to organize and to make the people that are behind the production aware of what I need in this matter. And, some people look to you like you are crazy, but that's the way.
Yeah.
To me, that's the way. That's the only way.
Mm-hmm. May I ask, like you say, like every day you try to reset in the morning and see what you need to deal with in that specific day. But is there something that you always do or most of the time do?
Yeah.
You know?
I try to be in total synchronization with my next project. I mean, I know that I had to go out in 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, I will be playing, I don't know, maybe I have that record now with Rick Pedro, the French. So we haven't played that. We already played that music live once, about 2 weeks ago in Coutances in France. But we haven't played that in a year. We went to the studio in New York in June of the last year, June. And we didn't see each other. We didn't play that music in a year. So I knew that at least 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks before we're supposed to do that concert in France, I'm supposed to already connect with the music. To bring that music again, part of my memory, of my life, of part of me.
Internalizing the music.
Exactly. But I know that in the same tour, I had that concert with Rick, but I had 3 more concerts, solo piano. which is, had nothing to do with this repertoire. And probably after those 3 concerts, I have a concert with a duet with Aimeno Viola, the Cuban singers that we have been doing concert for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 3 different projects in the same tour with totally different projection, musical projection. I cannot go out there without be clear about the 3 things that I had to do. It's not enough to say, I know the music, I play the music already. I manage that easily because I have been working with this music for a while, and I know I may. And no, I'm the kind of person that I like to work in advance, no matter if this is a music that has been playing for I don't know how many years. But as I said, if I played the music with Rick a year ago, that music today, it doesn't sound the same for me. I am not the same today. So I need to have that contact again with this material and see how I see it now in relation with what year ago. And I hear the record. There's a lot of things that I like in the record, but a lot of things already that it can be different.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of my intentions when we go next time to play, which is not about to play with what already is in the record, but what we can do now.
An update.
With this music, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot do that at the same day of the concert or a day before. You cannot prepare that 2 hours before the concert or during the sound check, you know.
So how do you internalize this music or music in general?
Well, part of that is if I already recorded, the first thing is to check what I did in the record, not with the intention to repeat it again or to to play it exactly the same. I actually don't like what I recorded 3 months or 2 months after I did it, and sometimes a week after. You know, and I want to go back again to the studio and say, no, let's do that again. Mm-hmm. But we know that's the way. And when they happen, it's a good sign. So this is what I try first, what we did, or at least what was the direction of this record, what we intend to do with this record. Because in some way we had to maintain that concept. Second, how we can develop the concept, how we can amplify the concept. And third, I need to feel comfortable with that. I need to feel that fluid, that the thing comes fluid, and not a struggle trying to think about the music and playing the music in many aspects, the structure of the music, the language, the idiom, everything which is about the music. I need to manage that with some, not an easy way, but that I feel that I can work with that, go with the flow. And otherwise, it's impossible to add anything else because you're still learning the music. Mm-hmm. But it's difficult to add something, to build something on top of that.
Yeah, so because the foundation is still in movement and not fixed. Yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I just read a book of Nadia Boulanger you know, the great teacher,
Of course.
and she talked to. It just reminded me, you know, she talked to a famous violin player out of a string quartet, and the string quartet, they were about to rehearse a piece that they have been playing for ages, and she was like, why do you keep rehearsing the song? You play it like 100 times a year. Why do you still rehearse it? And the guy said, because we play it 100 times a year, that's why we have to work on it. Otherwise we wouldn't it would be hard for us to take this music all the time, because you know it has to be developed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's exactly like that. You know, it's it's exactly in the way that life work, and especially when you uh, have a relationship with somebody else. It doesn't matter if this is your girlfriend or your wife or any. Um, there's a risk also always when you spend too much time sharing with somebody else to repeat things automatically.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened with the music. Unless you don't care about it. I want to repeat that because I feel okay repeating that. Well, okay, I can understand that. And I'm afraid to change anything else because anything worked perfectly in the way it is. But some people are always in that point where they need to be sure that trying to change a little bit or to transform a little bit the way to do what you already have been done for a long time and bring some healthy and bring some new things. It doesn't have to be big. Little new things are enough. So the risk of playing the same project for 2 years, which is you can be grateful because you have been working. You have the possibility to be in front of a different kind of audience around the world and playing I don't know how many concerts a year. There's a good side of that. And we have to applaud that and say thanks. But at the end, you can be sure that you already assume part of that in the very static way. Nothing move out of the same space in the same frame. And sometimes the thing is, well, if I go out of the frame or I try to amplify the frame, which one? But I don't want to be in the same frame for a while. I mean, still doing the same thing, and I don't want to continue trying to walk around the same space that I know exactly how it works, how is this, the colors, the corners, the shades, everything. I want to use that experience to see how I can go ahead. It's not about to ignore what you already know. It's about to use what you already know to continue. So rehearsing had nothing to do with playing live. It's two total different experiences. There's nothing like feeling the presence of the people on the stage when you go out on the stage and you see audience there. That's a different experience. And that's the moment where even when you have been working as crazy to have everything done in the most perfect possible way, there's a little moment when you go there that make you feel that you are not totally in good shape to do what you had to do. Because the feeling of respect, the emotion, the respect, the responsibility that you feel in the moment that you go there and you see the people that came to be part of the evidence of what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
That it has nothing to do with rehearsing. Rehearsing has a different attitude, it's totally different experience. So imagine if you don't prepare yourself, you don't contact with the people that may accompany to you on the stage. You don't know enough the people that work with you. They don't know enough you. The feeling of insecurity is even more. It's
Mm-hmm.
huge. It's huge. Because to me, the act of going out of the stage and playing with the trio, duet, any format, instrumental format, it's not a musical experience also, but it's a human experience.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's a life experience, you know. And I feel that as much as I know this guy and this guy, as much I can talk to them and I can spend time at a table, taking a glass of wine, eating some good food, laughing, discussing, talking about different issues of music, but life in general. I know that as much as I can do that with them, uh, we have a lot of more points to work together in the stage, reference, point of view. Um, and I remember well, Charlie Hayden, for example, he played a lot with Charlie Hayden live. We went on tour a lot. And and I appreciate a lot to be part of Charlie's band. And I learned a lot with Charlie Hayden in the stage, but also out of the stage. Because at the end, the amount of time we are on the stage is no more than 2 hours. Hour and a half, hour 15, hour 45, 2 hours. Okay. And then the rest, the rest is traveling together, is eating together, is talking, is taking a plane, a train, a bus, a car. Um, uh, you know, we have the same situation, not sleeping enough,
Mm-hmm.
feeling more or less the same. Uh, and then you know the person, you know the human being, you know what they like, what they don't, how they see life, how they see the history, how they, and it's impossible not to bring all this experience to the music and to the stage. It's impossible. Uh, so this is what really put the people together. The moment of doing music is the culmination. That's the last part of the whole process.
Mm.
Yeah, when we go to the stage, that's the ending. But then we have been since the morning taking 3 planes around
Yeah.
Europe and talking about this and confronting, facing problems and looking for solutions and any kind of problem. I mean, I have been exposed to I don't know how many different experiences when I'm on tour. So I remember that I received the news of when my mom passed away. I was already flying from Miami to to Germany.
My parents were at that concert, and
Mm.
I have a bootleg of that concert, and it's one of my
Wow.
most favorite recordings of you, and
Well,
it's such an amazing musical story that you guys put together there. And my parents still talk about that concert, and I'm so sad that I missed it. But
mm,
I, yeah, I can't imagine how that must have been like to play, to have to play in that, or to get to play in that kind of moment.
well, this is those are those kind of experience you never believe, you never go through your head that you're going to leave or face a situation like that. Actually, you don't want to think that you have to leave that. But that's life.
Hmm.
Uh, there's no control about it. There's no way to control that. And those are the moments that really show you who you are. And sometimes I think, sometimes we ask ourselves, why I had to leave that situation, that experience, why I had to pass through that situation. Yeah, because that's another way to learn, and
Hmm.
it's another way to know yourself, who you are, who is in there. If you don't get exposed, you don't get in front of that, you are not part of that situation. You never know your capacity
Mm.
of reaction. You have to. It's not enough with somebody telling you that they had that experience already. No, there's no way you to imagine
Mm.
what you be able to do in that situation. Um, Also, many years ago, I remember that when my second son was born, I wasn't there. I wasn't told, and I
Oh,
received the
wow.
news. I was received the news by phone, and also with my little girl, the only one that I was there when he was born was the older one.
Hmm.
Uh, so, in situations like that, good and bad news uh, at the some moment. Uh, just at right some few minutes before you had to go out there, and you said, "Well, the people that came here, they came here looking for something else, which is not exactly my problem. My problem is my problem, and I had to find a way to solve it.
Hmm.
And I cannot pass that to them. And I still have to find a way to bring them. It's not everything, it's not the whole package, at least part of their looking for coming to this place and
Hmm.
to be part of this moment.
Hmm.
Uh, so that's really difficult. Um, you have to leave some part of your existence in somewhere and trying to bring out there the other side. Um, but it makes you strong. It makes you really strong. And it makes you not only strong, but more sensitive.
Hmm.
Uh, because you know already what is the feeling passing for a situation like that. So when you hear about somebody else having similar situation, you know already what they are experimenting. Um, and then maybe you can help because you already passed with this situation. Um, I don't know. I don't know. It's a if somebody asked me, say, would you change something of your life, and especially your musical career? You have the chance to say, I would like to change it. I would say no. I accept, and I assume and I feel blessed with everything I have been able to live and the way it has been. Because it's not about the situations that we had to face. It's about to learn from that situation and to become a better person after all, a better musician after all, a better professional, a better uh, father, friend, a better human being. I always said that through the music, I became a better person. And becoming a better person, being able to make a better music, a more deep music.
Yeah.
So it's an interaction. It's a game there that it is your life, it's your soul, it's the music, how that music, that action that become part of your life, and how you put your life in there. This is all the time in that kind of.
I'm curious about something that I think every musician struggles with. It's a dilemma. We learn to play the instrument and we get better at it. And of course, in various degrees of abilities, but we have some ability on our instrument. But just the reason that we are able to do something doesn't really call for the need to do it. You know what I mean? So the dilemma between being able to play something, having technical facility, musical facility, is not the same as having a musical thought or idea. It's just a means. And I'm curious how you dealt with that throughout the years.
Well, look, I have been in the middle of people that I love, actually, the people that I respect, that they said, you maybe practice too much. Maybe you get too much on top of the instrument, too many hours, and it probably take out time. I mean, you don't have too much time to take care of all the elements or all the aspects of the music. But you are very hungry to know the instrument and manage the instrument, whatever. And I said, no. I mean, physically, yeah, it's true that I spend too much time with the instrument. But what I'm trying to get out of there is to open some ways. In Spanish, we say to abrir conductos, to open
Pathways
that allow me to express myself with totally freedom. I'm not trying to tell the people it doesn't mean that sometimes it come out, but I'm not trying to show the people, mainly now, or at least in the last 10 or 15 or 20 years, only my technical abilities. But I have a way to think musically that I need some tools that allow me to tell that clearly.
Yeah.
And clean and precise. And I always talk about, I always had that example of the Thelonious Monk. The Thelonious Monk he was criticized at some point in his life for those pianists that have an amazing abilities at that time. They didn't recognize him as a piano player. No, he's an amazing composer, whatever, but he's not a piano player. If you compare the first recordings of Monk with the last ones, you can hear an evolution in the way to work with the piano. Not only with the music, with the piano.
Mm-hmm.
So it means that he was conscious of the importance to develop a way to use the instrument to tell the people his stories.
Mm-hmm.
He was not the same guy in terms of as a piano player. It was a huge evolution. But the other question is, well, are we confused about the piano player that Monk, he was Monk or not, with his style to play and to do his music? There's a confusion about that because I see a lot of people that play Monk music. They try to play like him, exactly like him. They don't try to play the music looking for a different side of this music. They try to play like him.
Mm.
So how is that it wasn't important? He's playing as a musician, but we're trying to play like him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a piano player, and we're trying to reproduce the apparently mistakes and all this way he had to relate to the relation he had that he established with the instrument. That was the way he could play, and then we understand that we had to reproduce that. And this is something that I never understand clearly. I said the music of Monk, yeah, it's true that there was at the end it sounded like in a style in the way he played. But the music of Monk has a lot of possibilities to develop in terms how to express that, how to interpret the music. We don't have to be static there trying to do exactly, because it's like trying to do the same with Dizzy Gillespie, with Charlie Parker, or with Coltrane, or whatever of them, Bill Evans, or Errol Garner, that he didn't read music. He didn't have almost what we understand like the technique to play the piano, but he had the way to sound.
Mm-hmm.
He had the way to express himself. So at the end, we need to find a way to express ourselves, each one. Of course, we had to learn how they did it. We had to understand how they did it. We had to take advantage of that information. At some point in our life, we had to emulate some of those models, but with the intention to get out of that. At the end, I think that's the big step.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, we don't have to be prepared technically as a symbol of involution or a symbol of anything negative. No, I think a bass player that is not able to tune the notes would become a problem for somebody that call him to play the music that you need to be in tune because the way the bass lines work together with the piano, together with that, we need to somebody else to be precise in the way to deliver that that music. But even when you ask somebody else to try not to be in tune, but to be around, I believe that the first thing you have to know how to be in tune.
Right.
No?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if I overfeel in disadvantage when I had to talk about all those things in English. Because I know I could explain that much better. I could be more deep in my explanation in Spanish, but I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
But I mean it. And the way that your music grows and the way you grow as a composer, as improviser, you need to also develop your tools to tell that.
Yeah.
It's a normal relationship. It's natural. You cannot keep in the same level technically and trying to tell complex message. It's like when you write and you say, well, I would like to write something like Shakespeare, but I don't have the tools. I don't have to do it. And I actually know how to develop the idea, but grammatically, I don't know how to do that. Well, we are in front of the same situation with music.
Mm.
The people that orchestrate, same thing. They really know that really had to be every day updated with the possibilities to manipulate the sound of a big band, of the symphony orchestra, how to work with combinations, the tensions, the texture. Uh, so that's exactly the same that when we spend time trying to know the instrument, that at the end of the life, it doesn't matter how much time you have been working with your instrument. You never get in real control of that. I feel today, I just got 60 a few days ago.
Hey, happy birthday. I
Thank
didn't know that. I didn't know that. Okay.
you. Yeah, and I wake up in the morning and say, I had the sensation, the feeling. I don't know. I don't know nothing about that. It's not a pose. It's not an attitude. It's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, or I can say that differently. The feeling I have that there's too many things still to before to do to explore to know. Um, it's not enough. And if you count, you said, okay, I started 9 years old, the first time that I sit down in front of this instrument, and now I'm 60. And I have been spending, I don't know, from that amount of year, how much time I has been trying to play that instrument. Apparently correct. No, 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 because it's a combination of what you see. If I see you playing, when I hear you playing, when you hear your compositions, and I hear the different players, for sure, I can find propositions, vision, concepts, ideas that come through you, not in my mind. It comes from you, and I had to be able to to see that and to accept that. I said, look, this that moment here musically that he's offering the beauty of that, how he did that. So you have to find a way to understand what is happening there. That's a good stimulation to go back to the instrument.
Hear somebody else play.
And say,
yeah,
what's this? So it never stopped. It never stopped. Today, you become a reference, or you become the person that stimulates people around. But you has been stimulated for other people too, because you get from somebody else also stimulation to do what you do. And it's a cycle. It's always like that. And it has no age. It's not about to be less or more, or older or younger. No. I believe that it's a lot of people, no matter which age, they have a lot to say and to surprise you.
If you're listening.
Exactly. That's the point. So to be able to listen and be able to be surprised. Hey, you'd be surprised is that you have been able to recognize a moment, something.
Yeah, but it's also being able to accept that you say, I don't know something.
Exactly.
Because too quickly, too often we say, yeah, I know. I kind of know. But I often say, like, if we would know, we would do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
But we're not doing it. Yeah.
So normally you go to clinics or conversation about exactly what we're doing now. They invite you to go to any university, jazz department, or sometimes we go on tour, promoters ask you to do a conversation, a clinic or something before the concert in the afternoon. By the way, to me, sometimes this is too much. And I know it's a noble action, but also in the middle of the tour, there's too many things that we are exposed to, a lot of energy, and we have a main responsibility, which is the concert.
Right.
And we have to arrive there in a good, with good energy, good position to bring your art. But anyway, normally people that assist, that they come to see you talking, many of them are waiting to hear from you aspect totally theoric about music. Specific information about harmony, this, that, which is obvious. And at some point, for sure, we had to make reference to those aspects. But I love to do exactly what we have done today. Because you can have, you can be in totally control and know exactly how to work with this and all the elements that we use to make music, theoretically speaking. Maybe your music don't tell nothing to the people. But you know much, you know a lot. And when I came to the superior art institution in Cuba to to get a class of composition, the first question I got from my teacher, his name is Roberto Valera. He's part of a group of composers, contemporary composers, that had a tremendous impact.
Did you record a song by him on this record?
No, I recorded a song there from Catulla, which is another contemporary composer.
But
yeah,
I heard this name.
Roberto Valera, for sure.
Have you recorded something from him also?
Or I maybe mentioned him in some of the record or something. I don't remember to. Yeah. And he asked me, what are you looking for coming here? What is your... And I said, well, I want to learn how to compose. And he said to me, well, you came to the wrong place. I said, what? He said, yeah. I'm not able to teach anybody how to compose. I don't think there's nobody in the world able to teach somebody compose. But I can pass you all the elements, aspect, factors, tools, experience, facts, and reference, book, records. I can pass you all this, and we can discuss about this, and I can explain you the history, how things has been. But if you don't have nothing to tell the people, that thing, that aspect, I cannot pass to you, you know? So he said, no, and we have to understand that some people have the ability to tell stories. Some people don't. Some people are able to reproduce the stories and make an interpretation of these stories. And they do an amazing interpretation of that. And we need that too. We need that too. But coming here, expecting that you're going at the end, when you finish here 5 years later, you will become a tremendous composer, I cannot assure that to you. For sure, you will get here everything you need to cook. You know? Mm-hmm. And it changed totally my way to think about it and to see that and to see myself there. I said, okay. And I understood. Day by day, I understood what he trying to say to me in the beginning. So going to the classes or the conversation with the people I want, to me, is more important to push new or young people to understand why they want to become musicians, why they need to be part of this story, about this community. Mm-hmm. It's not somebody else impose you to become a musician and say you have to be that because of. I think this is a very personal decision, individual decision, something that comes to you. I used to hear people that said, well, normally you need to have a background, if you're a family of a tradition, to make music in order to come with some talent to do music. It's not true. Not true. I used to have a manager, more than a manager. He was like a father. When I came here, when I moved to the United States, this person passed away already. A great human being. He was a doctor. He lived in California. And I used to play in a club in California that's still alive, Carolina's Jazz Club in California. But I used to play in the original one. There was a team place that it has only 15 tables or something like that. Later on, they moved to a bigger place in Los Angeles. And I used to play in this club a lot when I moved here to it. And I remember that every time I played in this club, there was the same couples in the same table close to the piano, same faces, every night, both sets. Until one day they decide to go back to the dressing room, and they introduce themselves.
Hmm.
And I was glad that we could talk, and I said, I'm really grateful that for your support. You come here every night, every set, every time I come here. Oh yeah, a lot of um, compliments and everything. They invite me to go to their house and take a dinner together, and I accepted it again. The thing is that at the end, there was a beautiful relationship. And him and his wife at that time, they helped me a lot. Not only me, but they helped my family a lot.
Hmm.
That was right at the beginning when we moved to the United States. We were coming from Dominican Republic because I went out of Cuba to Dominican Republic first and then United States. And I didn't have anybody taking care of my, uh, you know, career,
Bu-
my business
Business.
part.
Yeah.
And he offered himself. He said, well, it's not that I know a thing about it, but I mean, I can learn. I can help you with anything you need. And that was the way we started working together. He was a guy in love with the music as you cannot imagine the passion for the music this person had, and especially for piano as an instrument. So he retired himself when he was 67. He said, okay, that's the end. At that age, he paid to a woman in California, in Los Angeles, was a classical piano player. And he started taking piano class.
Hmm.
And he said, I'm right now doing exactly what I want to do since I was a little kid. I didn't become a musician because when I said in my family, my father was a lawyer, and my family was full of people, the doctors, lawyers, this and this. And I said I want to be a musician. Everybody said, no, we cannot have musicians. This is not a real career. This is not a, you have to become a doctor, you have to become a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. He said, well, and I decided to become a doctor. And then everybody was happy in the family because of that. But I has been frustrated the whole life because my love is music and the piano. So he was every month assisted as an audience to 3 or 4 concerts of the symphony orchestra in LA, the opera in LA, every jazz concerts around, he was there. I mean, something amazing. But the meaning of that is at the end, the people look for what they really, uh, uh, what the love they feel for something else
Yeah.
is you cannot stop that. He's he wait until the end, and at the end he was able to play some back uh, uh, preludes and he was able to play some Mozart, this and that. He didn't become a professional musician, but he was
Passionate.
exactly, and that's a lesson. That's a strong lesson. And that's the reason I think people that since little kids, they were totally clear in what they want. And you get support and you get people around you that they push you and they create the condition around you to make that real. Is a blessing. Is a real blessing.
Yeah, that connects us back to your mother, who you wanted to make happy by playing the piano.
Exactly. Love
Right.
at the end is everything. Is everything. It has many forms. It has many, shapes. That it has to be in everything we do.
Yeah.
Since the moment we visualize something, not even when it's done, but just in the idea, just as an idea, the passion, the love has to be there. Because this is what really pushes you to have the faith in something else and said, okay, I will do it. I will run the risk. I will push myself. I want to see that. I want to see that. This is exactly that it had to happen to you when you sit down at the piano. And as Stravinsky said, he was not afraid to do music, but afraid to write the first note in the paper. He was always afraid to see the paper empty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. It's totally true. It's like a magic act when you see that the paper is becoming full of images, notes, and symbols,
Yeah.
and letters and
somebody
words.
else can read it, and it sounds like magic if played in the right way.
And the good question could be, or the good points could be, think about how that starts. How was the beginning of that? Because at the end, when you develop the idea, you forget about it, how you started.
Mm-hmm.
You enjoy the process, and you continue the process.
Yeah.
But that was a point zero. That was totally zero. You came with something else, an intention, an idea, a wish, a need, something that you, boom. So let's see what happened.
Mm-hmm. What was the point zero of the O Vida arrangement?
The O Vida. Well, look, O Vida is a very old bolero, Cuban bolero. Very well known for, maybe not for young people, but for generations of the 50, 60, 70 years ago. They used to dance close to their loved people with that music as a background. And also there was a song that was in the hands of one of the most iconic Cuban singer, that the name was Benny More. He had a special way to sing, and he was followed by thousands of people in Cuba. Still, people love Benny More. He passed away in the 60s. Mm. But when that project came to me, and they said, well, let's do a project which is trying to do a flamenco music with Cuban music and trying to convert some of the flamenco stuff in Cuban idiom and vice versa, bringing the Cuban style to the flamenco. It's not that you cannot say this is a very difficult thing because there's a lot of things in common between the flamenco and part of the Cuban music, not in everything of the Cuban music, but there's a side of the Cuban music that had a lot in common with the Iberic music. And what I did with this bolero is trying to change the whole harmony of the song, at least until the last section of the song, in the war of the flamenco harmonies, and literally made disappear the chords that everybody knows of this piece. So the song actually, it was automatically became very easy for Esperanza, the singer, to sing in top of that because she felt that she was already in her own war. I mean, you know
like
what I mean?
Environment. Yeah.
Environment, exactly.
Yeah.
But to me, it wasn't like that. I mean, I had to have, the process was that I tried to disconnect as much as I could from the song in the way that I knew it. And that was a song that I used to hear at home and parties and everywhere. And I need to divorce myself with that. But still, I needed to smell a little bit of the spirits of the song. But what happened with harmonies, with the harmonies behind the music? The harmony creates dramas. It created drama. So it means that I had to create a new drama behind the song. Because what we know about the harmony behind the song would not be there. And on the other hand, I had to learn more how is the typical construction of the flamenco harmonies, which is they have a different type of voicing, relationship in between the chords. The bass are not always the
root.
The roots. So two processes, disconnection or apparently disconnection with the tradition of the Cuban way to play the song. Second, learn how to bring the flamenco word of the harmonies to the song. The third, make the result authentic, that the people believe on this. Because sometimes when you do that, it doesn't sound real. It doesn't sound powerful in the meaning of the song. No? It feels like something that doesn't really go to anywhere. So that was probably one of the most difficult thing on this record was that how we create that bridge sometimes. That we can go to the other side, but not as a cliche, not as a, you know.
Yeah, you have to own it.
Exactly.
And you certainly do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I had a problem with that. They said, well, when the Cuban people heard that, what would be the reaction? And when the flamenco people hear that too, what will be the reaction?
Yeah.
You know? So you're totally alone. You're totally, you had not any of the sides can assure you that they will approve what you do, what you have been doing with that. Same thing when I did the record with Anna Maria Jupek, the Polish singer. She came with this project, the music, Jewish Polish music, from beginning of the 19th century, end of the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. I never understood why she wanted me to be involved with that, and said, I don't know nothing about that. I never heard it, and I'm afraid to be totally disconnected with this. I can put music there, I can, but at the end, it maybe say nothing. And I was afraid of that. We did it before that record. She invited me to play it in the record she did. That was a beautiful record that I was invited to play some of the song on the piano, just playing the piano, but not involved in the arrangement. But in this case, she wanted me to be the producer, the arrangement, the editor, to make the arrangement, to play the pianos. And it was a huge responsibility. And I said, well, finally, she convinced me to do it. So we record here in Miami 3 songs first, not the whole record, just 3 songs, to see how it worked. And especially for her, to see how she felt. And she was the one at the end to decide to say, yeah, it worked or it doesn't work, or we go ahead or we forget about it. And we did it. Apparently it worked. And then we decided to go ahead. It's a beautiful music. But the surprise, that's a music that they used to call tangos, like Argentina tangos. And I didn't know that was a music in Poland from that age that they called tangos. She said, I will send you recordings. It doesn't sound, the sound is not clean, it's not right. It's a whole recording, but just to you to have a reference of how this music sound before. And it sounds very similar to tango, the tangos in Argentina. So it provoked, it brought up a question. So the tangos, where the tangos came up first, that concept of the tangos. Why the Polish people, how the Polish people arrived to this sound, that way to do music, or why the Argentinian people, same question, who came first or how that, So the second step is formats, which ensemble, what kind of ensemble we use with that.
Oh, wait, Gonzalo. What kind of answer did you arrive at?
To the
Where's the link
with
the Argentinian tango and the Polish?
Well, I didn't find any. I found out. I was asking people, and I was trying to look in, internet and books, but there's nothing clear about it. Nothing that tells you that the tangos arrive in Argentina from places like, that of Poland has influence in the way that Argentina makes tangos. It wasn't clear for me. But anyway, then my next question was, well, should I bring arrangement to the same format they used to play that music? They have guitar, violin. There was no piano. Maybe 1 or 2 tunes. Some percussion. I think they have a clarinet too. And I said, no. just do it in trio. But trio not in the way we automatically think about trio, with the influence of jazz. I will use the trio as a format, the three elements, piano, bass, and drums. But nothing to do specifically with that concept of a jazz trio. Apparently, it worked. The evidence of if the music will work or not was the tour we did in Poland. We did 25 concerts in Poland, playing that music. And that was, for me, I was waiting for that to see how the people react, how the people embrace the project, because it's what the music tells and the lyrics, but also is the way that they know already that music with the typical sound of the music, this music. And we are offering something which it was totally in contrast with what they already knew. And it was great. It was great. It worked. But it was, and I enjoyed the result, but it was one of the processes that I really suffered a lot. When I say suffer is in the very literal way of the suffering. I mean,
Yeah.
With an amazing, a huge insecurity of I was not totally secure.
Well,
completely,
suffering, feeling pain, that's all part
Exactly.
of growing and
Mhm.
and learning. There's no learning without suffering, I think.
It's true. It's true. It's true. At the end, it's an amazing flavor. It's great.
Mm.
But the process is intense. It's really intense.
Yeah.
So days and days and days and days, just with only one thing in the head, which is that you are not able to do anything else than this. Just that information around your head. And one bar it felt like you had done a book of music, just one bar. So wow. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes it's like that. Some projects go like maybe like the Skyline trio,
Mm-hmm.
which seems to be like I think in the liner notes you talk about like 4-hour rehearsal and then a session
Mm-hmm.
or something.
It's true. It's true.
And something needs more molding, more playing around with the material.
Yeah. The Skyline was something that I had to do it. Not because the record, which is I'm extremely happy with the work of the record, the people. It's not about the record. It was the experience, was the act to come back to Ron and Jack and call them to play it again with one mission, the mission to say thanks.
Mm.
Because they were part of that group. Ron, Charlie, Jack, Paul Motion, Daisy, among others, including Cheek and many others. At the beginning, when I arrived here, Joe Lovano, Herbie, and many, many, many others. I remember John Patitucci too in Japan. And
The
I'm
real
probably
school, you call them, right?
exactly. Mm-hmm.
The real school.
And they support me a lot without reason. They didn't have to do it. They support. And they dedicate time to collaborate with me, do this, and call me to do that, and show me ways to, I don't know. So years after, I said, I would like to do that just to enjoy, go back and say, let's play it again.
Hmm.
And, and let's talk again and let's laugh again together, you know? I'm sorry. And I said, but to do that is not to play my music. No, it's to share music, wrong music, Jack the Union music. Um, Prominent, which is the piece, one of my pieces, is a piece that I include in one of my records. Already at that time dedicated to Ron Carter, exactly. Dedicated to Ron Carter. I didn't dedicate that song now. It was dedicated already in this record to Ron Carter. And we never had the chance to play that music together. So I found out that was the perfect moment to do it. And I had a beautiful story with him because we played two songs of each one. And when we play Maria, Siempre Maria, which is the name of my wife, which is an old tune that I also did a long time ago, it has more, a little bit, the syncopation on the bass of the Cuban music. And Ron said, oh man, when I had to go through that thing of the Cuban music and the syncopation is always complicated, you know. It is for us that we have a different methods. But then when we play Prominent, he said, you know, when we play that tune, I had the feeling that I have been playing that tune forever, always. It's a tune that I know since, I don't know.
Yeah.
I said, well, because this is your tune.
Yeah, it's dedication.
That's your tune, you know? We have a wonderful time in the studio that not only play, but what I said before, talking, laughing, Jack DNA, making a story. He loves to do stories, to tell stories. And he loves films, and he loves stories about boxing and this and that. And then Ron with his typical English, you know, personality and a very refined sense of humor. So we share their love, respect, and many other things. And it was a great moment. Great moment. Jim Anderson was the sound engineer, which is Jim has been recorded many of my albums since the 90s. So there was another person there that has been part of my career for a long time. Maria, my two kids were there. Gary, that was my partner until 4 years ago. And in this dream to do a record label. Everything happened in real family mood.
That's how it sounds.
And this is what it sounds, you know.
Yeah.
No rush, not pretension, no pretensions. It's just, let's play.
Yeah.
And Jay was recording what was happening there. So that was the attitude of everybody there. We rehearsed the day before in the studio. We rehearsed for about 3 or 4 hours. I knew already after the rehearsal that the way everything will happen, because the rehearsal was already that. a rehearsal of what happened that day, not in terms of music, but everything, because the rehearsal was full of funny moments and you know, a, a moment full of grace all the
Mm-hmm.
time, and relaxed. There was no, and everybody's were happy to be there. You can feel it. So that was a beautiful experience, beautiful experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy with the result, and I'm happy to be able to do that, come back and say, hey, and I would like to do that with everyone that support me in one or another way in my life. This is what we know, or at least we think we know, to the best thing we do in life, which is making music, whatever. So it's like I'm inviting you to bring you uh, the most noble and at the same time the most precious thing that I have in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So and I want to share that with you, not with the intention of to make I don't know, to take a benefit of that in other aspects. Actually, we didn't tour this record. We didn't tour this record. We did any live concert with this record. It was just going there and made the record and say.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't make it with Dizzy. Dizzy was the first one that came to Cuba and helped me to be noted by promoters outside of Cuba.
How often is Dizzy on your mind when you play?
Well, look, it was recently I decided to include him. I'd actually play Con Alma, which is the first piece
Mm-hmm.
that I played with him in Cuba. And I never take that piece out of my repertoire. I always look for a reason, or I invent a reason to do it. Mm-hmm. We did it now, not now, but at the end of November, it was September last year, at a club in New York that had his name, DC Club. And we put together this quartet with Eddie Harlan, Chris Porter,
Larry
and
Grenadier.
Larry Kennedy.
Yeah.
And we said, well, again, let's play originals, just one from you, one from me, one from. Well, let's play two classic. So we decided to do Kungam for this. It has a lot of meaning because we were playing there in DC clubs, and also we played I think Chick Corea tunes, 500
Yeah. I saw a video of
once,
that. Sounded incredible.
and so the idea is to bring out a record, an album with some of the nights that were recorded. We record that there, and so we were supposed to bring an album out there.
Mm.
Um, but DC, because also DC was a very sweet guy. Everybody that met him, I think, it cannot say nothing different. Uh, Very charismatic, amazingly charismatic person. Uh, he have amazing light on him. Um, and a guy that helped many people, many people. Trumpet players, many piano players, percussionists, any from different part of the world. Americans, people from from Venezuela, from Panama, from Cuba, from Puerto Rico, from República Dominicana, Brazil, Argentina. And I admired a lot from DC that he was always in this position in the acting to help people, new talent. And I said, the people that feel too confident about themselves, they don't have problem to help anybody else. You never saw any strange or obscure attitude on DC, especially because trumpet players that came up, new trumpet players, talented new people, new talents come. And he enjoyed to see them playing, enjoy what they had the new thing they had to say. Look there. That was a big lesson. To me, it was a huge lesson, you know. And I was one of the blessed people that he went to Cuba. He decided to support people like Arturo Sandoval, to Paquito Rivera, to myself, to Danilo Perez, Giovanni Hidalgo, David Sanchez, many of us, because I was part of that. So it's impossible not to have him in mind and to thanks him all the time. He saw me playing in Cuba, and when I finished, he came back to backstage and said, "I'm Dizzy Gillespie." He said, "Oh." He said, "I'm going to play tomorrow." It was in Havana. It happened in Havana, 1984. 84. He said, "Do you want to play with me tomorrow?" I said, "Well," I didn't know what to say. So he brought out of his trumpet music. He said, "You thinking we can play that tomorrow?" And there was a paper full of notes, black. And I said, "Well, yeah, I don't know. I would do what I can." He said, "Oh," he's laughing. He was laughing. He said, "No, it's a joke. What we can play together, because I definitely want you to come and play." And a week before, somebody else gave me a real book, passed me a real book for a few days. He said, "Look there for 3 or 4 days, and then I need to return that to the owners." Nobody had, books like that in Cuba. So when somebody had it, everybody passing to. And I saw that piece going out. And I like it. I said, "Oh, that's a beautiful piece. It's amazing." So a week later, Dizzy was in Cuba, and he said to me, "Well, we should play it." And I said, "Con alma." And then he said, "Well, how do you know that?" I said, "Well," and I made a story. And he said, "Well, I have wonderful memories playing that, also with piano players and duet. I did it with Oscar Pires for a long time." And he mentioned different piano players that he played Con alma, just a duet. And then that happened. And that was the beginning of everything.
Wow. Do you still remember a specific advice that he gave you when you guys played together?
He didn't.
Oh, he didn't. Yeah. But you could sense through reactions of his, what he was thinking. Because I've looked at a video of you guys playing together. Maybe it was that first concert. You were playing a Yamaha CP70.
Yeah.
And you guys were playing Con Alma. And there's specific moments where he's like, especially lighting up?
Yeah, well, I asked him, of course, I said, "There's anything that you want me to do or anything I should do?" And he said, "You play what you want." That's it. And he said, "You play what you want," and I followed it. He said,
Well, that's what you're doing, Gonzalo, still. You play what you want. And he's following you.
he said, stay a little longer on in the vamp, see, and then we can, develop something there. Then we made the melody, and I said, take your time. He said something also like this, "I'm not here." So you, like, I think he was trying to make me feel, comfortable.
At
Yeah,
ease.
he had to see that I was also, I was nervous and I didn't know how to to manage that moment. That was a big moment, and I didn't know how to. So he tried to make things easy. But he was like that always because I remember he invited me to play. After that, he came back to Cuba a year later, a year or 2 years later, to the same festival. And he brought his band with no piano player. So he wanted me to join him with the band. And then he invited me to play with his United Nations Orchestra in the Montreal Jazz Festival in Canada. That was 88. And I had a problem with visa. I don't know what. And I arrived late because they gave me the visa to the last minutes. And I couldn't play with the orchestra. But anyway, when he saw me on one of the side of the theater, he called me in and we played a game, con alma, piano, and trumpet. Last time I saw him was in 1989 in Cuba. He came back. That was the last time he came to Cuba. In the 90, I went to Dominican Republic. He passed away in 93. It took me by surprise. I knew he was sick because I heard some news on those years that he was sick. But I didn't see him during those years from the 1989 to the 93. And I remember that I used to see news on TV every day at 6 o'clock at home. And then I saw the news that he passed away. And Bruce Lombard from Capitol Record called me from Bruno, called me next day. He said, we want to make everything possible to get a visa for you to come to this memorial service. Because they tried to bring me to the United States before, and I never get the visa. DC also tried to bring me to play with him in a tour here with his band. It was impossible because they never give me the visa. And that was the first time they gave me the visa to see him, to be part of his memorial service. 93, January 93. That was the first time. But the visa said that I was only allowed to attend the memorial service, but not to play.
Oh.
It was like that. It was clear in,
Wow.
in the visa. It was difficult because that was done in St. John Church in New York. It was full of musicians, Cecil Taylor, George Benson, Wynton Marsalis, Freddie Hubbard, all of them. And everybody said, let's come to play to the stage. So I can. I was afraid that after many times trying to get the visa,
Yeah.
I didn't want to, yeah.
Fake mustache,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
mask, some giant hat or something.
No. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
Gonzalo, I have a bootleg of you playing with Tony Williams,
It's true.
Tony Williams at Yoshi's in a trio setting.
With Brian Bromberg on bass.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
that's the basis also on. Oh no, that's but he's on another record of yours,
Yeah,
right?
with Danny Chamber.
Right. So I'm curious what it was like for you to play with Tony because it
Well,
sounds great, but I don't know how many nights you guys played together. To me, it
a
sounds
week.
like a first night of you guys getting to know each other, and it's amazing to witness that.
Well, I think it was like 4 days, 4 nights, 4 to 5 nights a week. That was the original Georges, the first one. Very typical Japanese construction. And I have to mention Jason Olaine. Jason Olaine, um, he was in charge of the program of Georges at that time. And he put together this band. And he also put together, before this band, I played there for the first time with Joe Lovano, duet.
Hmm.
And it was Jason Olaine, the one that imagined all those kind of collaboration.
This
So he
one as
called me,
well, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And also that one now with Chris and Larry and Eric and Dizzy, that's
Hmm.
Jason Olaine.
Hmm.
And he said, well, let's do something with Tony Williams. Tony Williams is from this area, from San Francisco Bay Area. The point was to convince Tony Williams to play with me. I don't think he knew about me, nothing. Not neither Brian Romberg. And so finally he said, yes, let's do it. We spent 2 hours or 3 hours in the afternoon the first day doing the sound check. We decide what to play there. He brought his own, his big drum set, jello drums with many toms and cymbals. It's huge set and loud, really loud. Uh, but that was an amazing experience, especially I had no complaint about it. Tony has a special character and personality. And for some reason, he was really sweet. I enjoy a lot what happened in those days. Every set, I think we enjoyed more and more and more and more. Of
Hmm.
course, because we, uh, playing every night, but that helped a lot. He just, I remember that I decided to play a Ron Carter tune. The name is Little Waltz. And we did an encore one of the first night. I think it was the first time or the second encore in the second set. And we went to the stage. We didn't know what to play. And I started playing by myself Little Waltz, assuming that he knows that because he played that with the VSOP
Yes.
quintet.
Yeah.
And he never played during the whole song. He put the stick on top of a float tom.
Hmm.
He crossed his arms, and he never played. So at the end, he called me and he said, "I don't like that tune." But it took me by surprise because I had recording of him playing that
Yeah.
beautifully.
Hmm.
And I said, oh, how's that work? I mean, I thought that you said, and he told me more. He said, don't play that anymore.
Wow.
And then he said, okay. So in the next set, I played it again. I played it again, and he didn't play, but he didn't say nothing. He didn't talk about that anymore.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing. But out of that, it was amazing, amazing. And then we met again in Japan a few years after. We didn't play, but we saw each other in the Monfui Jazz Festival, and he came over and he was really, very gentle. That concert happened 6 months before he passed away.
Yeah.
6 months before, he was already complaining about some problem in his stomach, some pain that he had, and then 6 months later, they decide to. He decided to he accepted the surgery,
Right.
and they did it. The problem is that when they close it, they left something in there, and it provoked some infection and complications, and he was in pain. They brought him back, but no, it was not enough time to save him.
Wow. Such a shame.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, too many things, too many experiences, too many stories. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Gonzalo, if you're in the 90s where you got the opportunity to play with people like that, I want to know who you were back then. Were you like the guy who would ask these people lots of questions because you finally get the chance to play with them, so you make use of that opportunity, or were you maybe more shy and introverted? What were you like?
No, I was always very shy in this aspect, in these matters. I never was a person. I'm not a person normally who invite people or come and say, "Hey, I need to know that and this, and I need more. I need time to develop that kind of space and or connection with people." But I observe that. I try to observe as much as I can. I mean, it's important to be conscious of the circumstance, the moments, the possibilities that you have in front of you, in your hands. It's not that I don't appreciate or I don't know exactly what is happening. I know what is happening, and I appreciate that a lot. But my way to get out of there with something, taking out of that something important, something that I could say, it really helped me to, in this way, it's just observing and listening, And I believe a lot to be able, to listen. And not only, as I said before, playing the music, but out of the stage too. Everything that anybody can say that really can make you think. And you can, suddenly you say, I never saw that issue from that point of view. Mm-hmm. At the end, you can say, okay, I'm in this side, I understand that, or I accept that, or not. But the most important is that it moves you. mental structure to, it make you to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them are always, there are people that are always thinking and talking or expressing in one or another way themselves. They're expressing some of them, like Tony. Tony wasn't a guy that easily, for the first time you see him or you met him and he talked to you about this. He was a guy that he needs some space and this, and that's okay for me because in some way, I think I'm in the same way. I'm not that kind of image of a serious guy, but not. I don't know how to explain that, but
I think I get it. Yeah.
but at the end, 4 days together, playing together, talking in the backstage in the dressing room, probably eating together. Something come out little by little, and it's the combination of what you give and what you also receive. They also are observing you.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's observing each other. Everybody's trying to catch, to have something from you, to know about you. And I also understood that I didn't have too much to say among those guys. So my position was to listen and to watch and to observe. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talking about the names we already talked, do you think that I had to say something? I had nothing to say. I enjoyed to be there. I was blessed to be there. And I tried to learn as much as I could and to enjoy as much as I could. Listen, watching, observing, and alert all the time, very alert. That's it. This is, as I understand it, what I should do at that moment.
Mm.
Charlie, for example, I had too many years hanging around with Charlie. So it was different. Charlie used to come here home. I don't know how many places we went together to play, to hang around restaurants. We know the family of each other. But that was not the first thing. Something that was developed by the time we had together. But I has been able to, since I was really young, to be around people that have a lot to say, a lot to give. And as I said before, Ron, Jack, all of them, I would love to do exactly what I did with Skyline. 30 years after, 40 years after, I said, let's go again.
Mm-hmm.
And just to, like an invitation. The only thing I wanted to tell them how much I appreciate know him, to meet him, to all the experience that I had with them. That's it. But the name is, the list of names are many. Piano players who are with Chick. I did many concerts, duet concerts.
Yeah, you also played duet with Herbie, right?
With Herbie, we did.
Couple of times.
We did like 4 or 5 concerts.
I was trying to find like something from that because I would love to hear how you guys sound together. What did you guys play?
We play basically with Herbie. We play his music. with Chick was different because we played maybe Spain at the end. We developed concerts with no music that we improvise in the moment. And this is what he loved to do when we get together. He said, "No, we maybe play one of his tunes or two of his tunes, and maybe we do some standard. But then out of that was total improvisation. And also with Joe Lovano, we did a lot of many concerts, live concerts. Wrong, I may mention Run Already, but Whole Motion. Not only the record, but we played also some concerts in Canada. Not at the Montreal Festival, but we played in Toronto. We clubbed there in Toronto once. Many. Idris Mohammed, the drummer.
Oh, wow. When did you play with him?
With him and Ron Carter. We played it at Blue Nose, New York Blue Nose, for a week. Louis Nash. Gene Jackson. He lives in Japan now. Yeah, many. Dave Holland. Also, I remember that one of the record I did with Charlie Haley, Antonio Sanchi was the drummer. He didn't record.
Yeah.
He didn't work. He was not part of the record, but he went on tour with his band. Antonio. I'm sure that I'm not remembering everybody, but many people.
Wow.
That's the best way to learn. That's the best way to learn. And every time, not every time, but 80% of the times that I've been part of those projects, the collaboration, is playing their music. So it's not that I'm bringing my music and I'm a little bit comfortable with the music that I'm bringing. Normally I'm playing the music of other people, the projects of other people. And you are not taught all the time in your water.
Yeah. It does something to you. Also, when you then come back playing your own music, you see it from a different perspective.
Exactly. Makoto Sonic, we had done many things together in Japan. Actually, when I played Bato for the first time, he was the other pianist with his two pianos. We did twice in Japan, and it was his idea. He said, well, why we don't play the classical music, something like Bach or Stravinsky or whatever it is. Well,
wow.
The only problem to do that is how much time we had to put that music together. That it required time to. So we talk about that like a year and a half in advance, something like that, or maybe 2 years in advance. And I was practically like 6 months, almost every day, working with the back-to concert for two piano.
Wow. I mean, I have again a question about practicing. We talked about being on tour and trying to find a space where they can provide a piano and you can rehearse a little bit or practice a little bit. What happens if you don't find a space? What's your thought on practicing in your head without the instrument?
Well, I don't know. I never had before a situation like that. One or another way, I always find a way to have a place, little instrument. Sometimes the instruments are in really bad shape, but at the end, I have been able to find it. Uh, but yeah, one of the exercise to memorize the music is that I'm trying to play that in my head.
Yeah.
Uh, and more than that, I try to memorize not only, of course, what I'm doing, but what is everybody's doing. Uh, because sometimes, in this case, Bato, this piece of Bella Bato, there's some moments on the piece that when you play your part, to the piano, your part, it sounds that it goes in one clear direction, harmonically, for example. When you play the piece with the whole ensemble, it has nothing to do the whole result. It has nothing to do with just your part.
Mm-hmm.
So the first impression when you play that for the first time with the whole band is you get confused, man. It's like I'm playing the right thing, I'm playing the right notes. You know, it's all the polychromatic use of all the elements, harmonically speaking, that he used in between the pianos, but also with the orchestra and also with the percussion, because that piece was done first for two piano and percussion. That was the original thing. And then later, uh, uh, they asked him to do a version amplified with symphony orchestra. And everything worked perfectly together. But you hear, during the rehearsal, you hear the percussion by themselves, or you hear the two pianos by themselves, or you hear the orchestra. It's like three different things, totally, completely different. Um, at this point where you're thinking, well, they don't need the pianos here. It sounds great just with the orchestra and the piano, or the percussion by itself and things like that. It's a level of independence in between the sides, the parts, that you hear that not many times on music composition. It's amazing that in this aspect, but that require of a good conductor that really put everybody. Otherwise, it's impossible. It's impossible because the sonority, the sound of what is happening there with the orchestra at some point of the music pulls you to another side, rhythmically also. So the exercise to think about the music is not just to know your part, but to know exactly what is happening with the rest of the people around you.
Yeah.
And I tried. I remember that I was in Japan. I was really afraid when I was close to the moment to play that music, when I was ready 2 days before I flew there. And I was really anxious because it's a difficult piece. And I remember that I was in the bed, resting or sleeping. And before that, I was trying to sound in my mind every note, every moment, everything that I supposed to do. Because even when we played with the music, understand, I didn't want to be, totally dependent of to be passing the page. So
Yeah.
I need to know what was happening always.
Wow. Can we talk about influences by fellow pianists of your generation?
My generation, I note that in the 90s, in the 80s, but in the 90s too, there was not many piano players that came up like now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the end of the 90s, beginning of the 21st century, I'm talking mostly from Cuba, also from different part of the world. From Cuba, there was not many piano players coming up. But at that time, at the end of the 90s, beginning of the 20th century, 21st century, and then was a movement of a lot of piano players like never before.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them. And many of them already now making beautiful career. Many of them making their usual space in Europe, in France, in Spain, in Italy. And I think also in America. Now I can see now new voices in Europe too. You are one of them. But I don't remember in 80s, like now, many different voices that more than the people that already were established.
Mm-hmm.
Chick, Herbie, um, uh, Keith, McCoy, I don't know, and many others.
Yeah.
Of course, also, it's a generation that is already in the 80s. But still, I mean, it's a little bit difficult to make a picture of that.
Yeah.
But I had that feeling. I had the feeling that the last 15, 20 years, we can talk more about the new voices on the piano,
Mm-hmm.
on jazz, but also in classical music.
Who are the people that you are listening to these days? Like
Well,
recent discoveries for you?
I love a lot. What is the name of the partner of Cecil
Sullivan Fortner?
Sullivan Fortner?
Oh, yeah.
I've been listening what he does, especially what he does behind her,
Yeah.
because we used to talk a lot about the role of the band leader when the people lead the work, the job. But to me, it's really important when the job that you can develop behind, which is not behind. We said behind, but not. In this case, it's not behind. It's not a typical company that you do behind the voice. And I appreciate that because this is exactly my conception of how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
A guitar player, a piano player, any harmonic instrument behind the voice.
Like interactive and dancing
Exactly.
around you, giving information, giving inspiration.
An orchestra.
Yeah.
A piano is an instrument to myself. It has to be conceived in the way that as an ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
Because it gives you that possibility. It's easy. It's not that we're inventing nothing. We are pushing in the direction, in the sophisticated direction. No, the instrument itself brings you all these possibilities. So we need to take advantage of that. We need to explore many different things to that possibilities. And when I see that a player is conscious about that, it's easy the evidence is there.
Mm.
Colors, the dynamic, the different layers, the voicings, the registers of the instrument, um, how the instrument become parallel in import, in the import, the leadership of the instrument is at the same level of the voice
Right.
without taking, it's not creating any problem, any obstacle. The people still can enjoy the voice, but they have their compliments. And sometimes it's not even a compliment. It's an amplification of what is happening with the voice. And sometimes you can be just behind.
Mm-hmm.
But that situation that you go there and you go down and you go at the same level and you get distance and you get close and you know like when you work with the symphony orchestra or a big band or something like that and looking for that kind of picture that you have all the drama, all the chorus. That's the way. That's the way it should be. Um, the risk of reinvent harmonies, they reinvent um, rhythmically what is happening behind that the melody. Uh, Even the tempos, things that we know already, always um, fast tempos, not necessarily we have to continue doing this way, or vice versa. So changing the tempos in the same tune, depending on what the lyrics is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because that's the point. I mean, you know, the synchronization of the piano and the voice, not because how creative you are moving the harmonies and moving those aspects, but also because you know what the song say.
Yeah.
So you are able to endorse the story, you know, and to build something which is accordance in symphony with the story of the song. Um, Sometimes you hear people playing beautiful stuff, but not exactly it's beautiful independently of the song, but
Yeah.
maybe not exactly what the song deserves. Uh, um, because maybe we need to, well, that happen when you need to show the people that you can do those beautiful things. Um, but I like what they're doing, what he's doing, because it's everything in the right place.
Yeah.
In this matter of he knows what she's saying. She knows he knows exactly when she needs him to be here, to be there, to
Yeah.
not be there. Uh, so the art of the duet, which is now is very often, you see that very often. There's a lot of projects duets right now. But there's so many. I mention him probably because I saw him a few weeks ago live
Mm.
in a gala we did in San Francisco Jazz Festival with the retirement of the person that practically create what is the San Francisco Jazz Festival today, Randall
Mm.
Klein. Randall Klein. So there was a gala for him, and there was a lot of musicians, that's including Herbie. Herbie playing here also, and many, many, many. So I saw him. I didn't see him them playing live before. It was really touching, very emotional, very beautiful. But I have the problem also that I'm extremely, I don't know how to call myself. I have a huge problem with the names, with the names of everything, the titles of the songs,
Yeah.
the composers, the
Yep.
name of everybody, including myself. Uh, and then it's a very embarrassing because sometimes I want to tell something about somebody else, and I take time to think about the name
Hmm.
of the person, the name of the person, the name of the person. Right now, I was trying to remember the name of Randat Lane, the person of San Francisco,
Well,
and
you did fine.
I'm glad that I couldn't get it. Uh, but I'm yeah very bad with this, really bad with this.
Well, I think these days, so much information is, we have to deal with so much information. The this human being has to deal with so many different kinds of information. And we, especially as musicians or artists, we try to remember so many things like
Mm-hmm.
programs, projects, names of albums, recording engineers, tunes, harmonies, whatever. There's so much. And there must be like some casualties, you know,
Mm-hmm.
where you lose
Mm-hmm.
track of certain names.
You maybe help me to what is the name of Herman?
What's the what kind of person are we looking for? Musician?
Yeah, it's a piano player too. Um,
Jaron Herman?
Jaron Herman.
Okay, yeah.
Jaron Herman. That I
Hmm.
know how Jaron Herman from years back, many years back. I remember that when I was signed by Bruno, about the same year, there was a moment where Bruno signed many young people coming, I mean, different instruments, they're from different instruments. Jackie Terrace was signed at that time. Joe Lovano was signed at the time. Diane Reeve, Cassandra Wilson, uh, Christian McBride that appeared in one of the records of, I'm talking about in the beginning of the 90s, of,
Geoffrey Keyser?
I think it was Geoffrey Christie too, and another one that was signed by some Leonard at that time too. That was a year of many new names that came up through Blue Note record that is still active and doing an amazing music, great career around. Um, and also I saw a video of you playing a trio,
Whoa.
playing your music. Yeah, I didn't have too much. mm, I don't remember to have memories to see you playing your own music. It wasn't maybe a year ago, a year and a half ago. And I was really excited about what I heard and how much the composition and the composition part uh, as a trio, which is one of the things. Normally, you see trios. There's too many ways to afford the trios to work in the trios, and I'm not saying that that's a better than this one, but when you see a job of a deep work on the composition with the trios, where each instrument uh, are developing a very specific role that coming from your own vision. Of course, everyone has a space for improvisation, to be themselves, but always starting from the point which is conceived before. There's a concept before that. And very impressive, very, very, very impressive, very beautiful. So we never had the chance to talk each other and to tell each other what we think about it, which is very bad too. Yeah, very bad. And we should do that more often, you know. I think one of the most beautiful and healthy thing that happened in the 20th century, in the 30s and the 40s, is interaction between the artists and how much time they developed to sit down and to talk. And to talk about what they were doing and what the vision of each one about what the other one. And I heard this piece and I heard that record from you, and I believe this is great. Or I didn't like this because that is, you know, the serious arguments behind that. And this is part of the healthy, of how healthy was this music at that time. And we can feel it, we can hear how they interact, how they work as a movement together, as a group, not in the individual's experience. Even the classical music, you see a lot of pictures of how Debussy with Stravinsky, Shostakovich with Prokofiev with Stravinsky. But I mean,
yeah, or writing letters to each other,
exactly,
exchanging ideas, criticizing each other, complimenting each other. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I love, and I think it's genuine when somebody criticizes you in front of you. It's an act of courage. But I see it's clean. I mean, I cannot assume that everybody like what I do, or they think it's done in the right way. And it's all right when the people come and say, in your face, in front of you, they share with you all the sides of their impression about what you do. I don't think nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. If it comes from the right place, you know, some people put themselves down or others down because it comes from a, you know, weird place or something. But if it's genuine and also trying to help and engaging in a conversation, then it's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Gonzalo, it's hard for me to think about you checking out a video of mine. It's really hard I'm flattered. Thank you so much for.
No, I try to see
words,
as much as I can. I try to see and to listen as much as I can. Sometimes we get drunk of ourselves, you know, and just talking about yourself, just talking about listening to yourself. And you want the people also talk about you all the time, which is, I appreciate that a lot. And I think everybody appreciates that a lot, that the people recognize what you do. But it's maybe not healthy, stay there in that compact, little tiny brain that you almost cannot move because you're too attending just what happened with yourself, you know? So, and I understand that it's an exercise that we had to do it, and we had to provoke us that on us. So sometimes it's not easy, we had to push ourselves to do that. Say, no, I need to, I should do that, I have to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm very thankful that I got the opportunity to talk to you in this way and to learn from you.
I appreciate a lot that opportunity. And so thank you so much. So wishing you all the best.